The approaching storm. The vast command bridge of the Vexari warship inevitably hummed with activity as Admiral Krell surveyed the holographic map spread before him. His slate-gray skin, covered in intricate patterns that signified his high rank, glistened under the blue glow of countless stars. 6 elongated fingers tapped rhythmically against the polished surface of his command console. "Magnify Sector 7, he ordered, his voice carrying the distinctive metallic undertones of his species. The hologram zoomed in to reveal a small yellow star with 9 orbiting planets. The third one, wrapped in swirls of blue and white, commanded his particular attention. Earth. The final conquest before his long-awaited elevation to the Vexari High Council. For 3 centuries, Admiral Krell had led the expansion fleet across the galaxy. 47 worlds had fallen before his methodical campaigns. 47 civilizations now served the greater glory of the Vexari Empire, their resources fueling further conquests, their populations working in mines and factories across Vexari space. What do we know of their defenses? Krell asked his second-in-command, Commander Vex. The slender officer approached, datapad in hand. Still primitive by our standards, Admiral. Their military forces remain divided by geographic boundaries. Nearly 200 separate political entities with no unified defense protocol. Their weapons rely primarily on chemical propellants and crude nuclear technology. Krell's mouthparts shifted in what passed for a smile among his kind. And their space presence? Minimal. Small stations in low orbit, modest mining operations on their moon, 3 scientific outposts on the 4th planet, and automated research probes at the outer system boundaries. They've barely left their cradle, Krell observed, picking up a small model of a human fighter jet from his vast collection of conquered species technologies, a hobby he had cultivated over centuries of successful campaigns. He turned the model over in his hands, studying its crude design. So wasteful, burning chemical fuels to achieve what gravitational manipulation could do with a fraction of the energy. Commander Vex displayed visuals of Earth's most advanced weapon systems on the central screen. Their nuclear arsenals could potentially damage our smaller vessels, but their delivery systems are slow and easily intercepted. No shield technology, no faster-than-light capabilities, no quantum weaponry. And yet, Krell said with a hint of curiosity, our advanced scouts report unusual energy signatures from their lunar base. Something unexpected. A minor anomaly, Admiral. Likely experimental technology that poses no significant threat. Krell nodded, but something in his ancient mind registered a note of caution. In his long career, he had learned that underestimating even primitive species could lead to unnecessary complications. Deploy the fleet in standard conquest formation, he ordered. I want simultaneous strikes on all their off-world installations. Cut communications, isolate their planet, then begin methodical reduction of their defensive capabilities. The command was transmitted throughout the vast armada. 5,000 warships of various sizes, each a marvel of Vexari engineering, powered by dark energy reactors and armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust if necessary. The Conquest Fleet is assembled, Admiral, announced Fleet Commander Czar, entering the bridge with a formal salute. Phase shift engines primed and ready. We await your command. Krell rose from his command chair, towering over his officers. This marks my final campaign in service to the Empire, he announced. Let Earth's conquest be worthy of remembrance. The bridge crew acknowledged with simultaneous salutes as Krell gave the order. Execute phase shift sequence. Space folded around the massive fleet as 5,000 ships vanished from their position at the edge of the solar system, tearing holes in reality that would deposit them near Earth within moments. Dr. Elena Reyes stared at her monitor in the lunar observatory, her coffee growing cold beside her keyboard. For the 3rd time in as many hours, the gravitational sensors had detected anomalous readings from the outer system. Marcus, are you seeing this? She called to her colleague. Dr. Marcus Zhang looked up from his own workstation, his expression shifting from mild annoyance at being interrupted to surprise as he studied the data streaming across Elena's screen. "That can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. "The energy signatures suggest massive displacement, but there's nothing visible on any telescope feed." Elena ran another diagnostic sequence. It's like watching ripples in a pond, but not seeing what caused them. The observatory's eye assistant chimed in. "Analysis complete. Gravitational disturbances consistent with theoretical models of space-time manipulation. Confidence level, 87.4%. Marcus and Elena exchanged worried glances. Space-time manipulation. That's not possible with current human technology. Elena's hand hovered over the emergency communication panel, which means it's not human. Before she could press the button, the observatory's lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness before emergency power kicked in. Outside, through the reinforced viewing dome, they watched in horror as a fleet of obsidian ships materialized above the lunar surface. Vessels of impossible size and alien design. "Oh my God," whispered Marcus as energy beams lanced from the alien ships, slicing through lunar defense installations with surgical precision. Elena slammed her hand down on the emergency communicator. "Lunar Observatory to Earth Defense Command. We are under attack. Repeat, Luma is under attack by unknown forces." But her message would never reach Earth. The Vexari's first strike had targeted all communication arrays, isolating the moon from its home planet. In the underwater headquarters of Earth Defense Command, located beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Hiroshi Takeda watched with growing horror as all communication with lunar outposts suddenly ceased. "Status report," he demanded, his calm voice belying the dread settling in his stomach. "All lunar communications offline, sir," reported Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez. "Mars outposts also dark. Last fragmentary transmission from Ganymede mentioned ships appearing out of nowhere." The massive central display showed only static where live feeds from off-world installations should have been. Around the circular command table, military leaders from the world's major powers sat in stunned silence. General Williams of the North American Alliance was the first to recover. Could this be some kind of large-scale systems failure? Simultaneous failure across all off-Earth installations, countered General Zhao of the Pan-Asian Coalition. Impossible. Admiral Takeda closed his eyes for a brief moment, centering himself. When he opened them, his decision was made. "Ladies and gentlemen, we must assume that Earth is under attack by an unknown extraterrestrial force," he said, his voice steady. "Implement first can and take T Piro Tokyo Val Delta immediately." The room erupted into controlled chaos as officers rushed to terminals, transmitting coded messages to military installations around the globe. Within minutes, every Earth nation would be on highest alert. All space-facing weapons systems activated, civilian populations preparing for emergency measures. "What about the Artemis?" asked General Williams, referring to humanity's most closely guarded secret. All eyes turned toward Admiral Takeda. The Artemis was an experimental vessel unlike anything humanity had built before, a prototype warship incorporating technologies that most scientists had considered theoretical until recently. "Artemis is our only ship with technology that might stand against whatever knocked out our outposts," Takeda said slowly. "But it's untested, and its systems are still being calibrated. We have no choice," General Zhao insisted. "Whatever hit our bases did so with overwhelming force and advanced technology. Conventional vessels would be suicide missions." Admiral Takeda nodded grimly, then pressed his palm against a biometric scanner on the table. A secure channel opened to a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean floor. "Captain Chen, this is Admiral Takeda. First contact, Protocol Delta is now active. Artemis is authorized for immediate deployment." There was a moment of silence before a woman's voice responded. "Understood, Admiral. Artemis ready for launch in 30 minutes. As Takeda ended the communication, the room's main display suddenly flickered to life, showing hundreds of alien vessels appearing in orbit around Earth, sleek, predatory shapes that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. "They're here," someone whispered. Captain Maya Chen stood in the launch bay of the Artemis, watching as her crew of 40 made final preparations for what might be humanity's first, and possibly last, interstellar combat mission. At 32, Maya was younger than most would expect for commanding Earth's most advanced vessel, but her brilliant tactical mind and unorthodox problem-solving abilities had made her the natural choice. Born to a quantum physicist and a marine biologist, she had combined both parents' analytical approaches with an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional combat that had revolutionized space warfare theory. Status report. She called to her executive officer, Commander Raj Patel. Raj approached, tablet in hand. "Engineering reports the dark matter reactor at 82% efficiency, the best we can get without another month of calibration. Quantum shield generators online but untested in actual combat conditions. Adaptive weapon systems primed." Maya nodded, her expression revealing nothing of the fear she felt. Artemis represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, a quantum leap forward made possible by discoveries at the CER and Luna Particle Accelerator 5 years earlier. The ship incorporated technologies that most of humanity believed were decades away: artificial gravity, limited quantum entanglement communications, and adaptive shield systems. But it remained untested in actual combat, and they were about to face an enemy that had effortlessly neutralized all of Earth's off-world installations. "What about the pulse?" she asked, referring to the ship's most experimental weapon. "Charged and ready, but Dr. Alvarez warns that we have theoretical models only. No guarantees it will work as designed." Maya allowed herself a small smile. When has anything ever worked exactly as designed on a first deployment? The ship-wide communication system activated with a soft chime. Captain Chen to the bridge. Launch sequence initiating. As Maya and Raj made their way through the sleek corridors of the Artemis, they could feel the subtle vibration of the dark matter reactor powering up. Unlike conventional vessels with their bulky engines and massive fuel requirements, Artemis was streamlined and elegant, a predator rather than a workhorse. The bridge was a model of efficiency, with stations arranged in concentric circles around the central command platform. Holographic displays provided 360-degree awareness of the ship's systems and surroundings. "Captain on the bridge," announced Lieutenant Tariq Hassan from the operations console. Maya took her position at the command platform. "Status of the enemy fleet. Multiple formations in Earth orbit," reported Lieutenant Commander Wu from Tactical. "They appear to be deploying smaller vessels toward major population centers. No weapons fired planetside yet, but they've established orbital superiority." Maya studied the tactical display, noting the methodical, almost textbook precision of the alien fleet movements. "They've done this before," she observed. "This isn't their first invasion." "Launch protocols complete, Captain," Raj reported. "Artemis ready for deployment." Maya took a deep breath, knowing that the fate of humanity might rest on her decisions in the coming hours. "Engage stealth systems and prepare for vertical ascent. We'll use the Pacific thermal variations for additional sensor masking." As the massive underwater doors above the Artemis slid open, revealing the dark Pacific waters, Maya addressed her crew one final time before launch. "We are about to engage an enemy with technology far beyond our own," she said, her voice calm and determined. "But throughout history, humanity has prevailed not because we had the biggest guns, but because we found ways to use what we had more effectively than anyone thought possible. Today, we continue that tradition." The Artemis rose silently through the water, its advanced hull design creating minimal disturbance. As it broke the surface, its stealth systems activated fully, bending light around the hull and absorbing radar signals rather than reflecting them. "Set course for lunar orbit," Maya ordered. "We need to see what we're dealing with before we engage." The Artemis accelerated upward, leaving Earth behind as it headed toward a confrontation that would determine the future of humanity. On the bridge of the inevitable, Admiral Krell was receiving reports of the successful first phase of the invasion, when a junior sensor officer approached nervously. "Admiral, we've detected an unusual energy signature launching from the planet's ocean. It doesn't match any known human technology in our database." Krell's 4 eyes narrowed slightly. "Show me." The holographic display zoomed in on a blank section of the Pacific Ocean. There was nothing visible, but the energy readings were unmistakable. For the first time in centuries of conquests, Admiral Krell felt a flicker of uncertainty. Something about this supposedly primitive world was not as it seemed. "Find that vessel," he ordered. "Whatever it is, I want it destroyed." Humanity's answer. The Artemis glided silently through the debris field that had once been Lunar Defense Station Alpha, its advanced sensors recording everything. Captain Maya Chen watched the holographic display with a mixture of horror and clinical detachment as it reconstructed the alien fleet's methodical destruction of humanity's outposts. "Their attack patterns are precise," observed Commander Rajpatal. "They targeted communications first, then defense systems, then propulsion capabilities. They left life support systems largely intact." "They want resources, not just territory," Maya concluded, "including us." For 6 hours, the Artemis observed the Vexeri fleet from the protection of its stealth technology, recording weapons signatures, shield modulations, and communication frequencies. The aliens had established a beachhead on the lunar surface, deploying ground forces that moved with machine-like precision. "Captain," called Lieutenant Hassan from the sensor station, "I'm detecting fluctuations in their shield harmonics when they fire their main weapons. There's a momentary power diversion, milliseconds only, but it's consistent across all vessels we've observed." Maya moved to his station, studying the readings. "Can we exploit that?" "Possibly," he replied, "but we'd need to time our attack precisely with their weapons discharge, and we have to survive long enough to get that close." Dr. Alvarez, the scientist in charge of the Artemis experimental weapons systems, joined them. "Captain, I've been analyzing their energy signatures. Their technology appears to operate on principles similar to our dark matter theories, but more advanced. The pulse might be effective against their shields if we can match frequencies." The pulse was the Artemis's most secret weapon, a quantum disruptor designed to temporarily destabilize energy fields. It had never been tested against actual alien technology. Maya's deliberation was interrupted by an urgent alert from Tactical. "Captain, 3 enemy vessels are breaking formation, heading toward our position." Maya returned to the command platform. "Have they detected us?" "I don't think so," replied Lieutenant Commander Wu. "They appear to be conducting a standard search pattern. But their sensors are more sensitive than we anticipated. If they maintain course, they'll pass within 500 meters of our position." Maya made a quick decision. "Prepare to drop stealth and engage the nearest vessel. All power to shields and the pulse. We'll test Dr. Alvarez's theory." Her officers stared at her in disbelief. "Captain," Raj protested, "engaging will reveal our position to their entire fleet." "Precisely," Maya replied calmly. "But first, we're going to see if the pulse works against their shields. And if it does, we'll have the advantage of surprise for a few precious seconds." The Artemis crept closer to the approaching Vexeri scout ship, a vessel 3 times its size. Maya waited until they were less than a kilometer away before giving the order. "Drop stealth. Target the propulsion systems and fire." The Artemis suddenly appeared in space, its conventional weapons already firing. The first volley struck the Vexeri vessel before its defensive systems could respond, but the damage was minimal, like throwing stones at a tank. The Vexeri ship recovered quickly, bringing its own weapons to bear. Green energy beams lanced out, striking the Artemis's quantum shields. The human vessel shuddered under the impact. "Shields holding at 72%, reported Raj. "But we can't withstand sustained fire." "Charge the pulse," Maya ordered. "Time it with their next weapons discharge." Dr. Alvarez's fingers flew across his console, synchronizing frequencies. Pulse charged at 94%. The Vexeri vessel fired again, its energy beams even more intense than before. Now, Maya commanded. The Artemis released the pulse, an invisible wave of quantum disruption that propagated through space at near-light speed. When it reached the Vexeri ship at the exact moment its weapons fired, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien vessel's shields flickered and failed completely for 2.3 seconds. In that brief window, the Artemis' conventional weapons tore through the exposed hull, causing significant damage to its propulsion systems. "It worked," exclaimed Dr. Alvarez. "The pulse destabilized their shield matrix during weapons discharge." But there was no time to celebrate. The two other Vexeri vessels were altering course, converging on the Artemis' position. And beyond them, larger warships were beginning to turn their attention toward the unexpected battle. "We have what we need," Maya said. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed. Transmit all sensor data to Earth Defense Command, tight beam quantum communication." As the Artemis accelerated away, the damaged Vexeri scout attempted to pursue, but its compromised propulsion systems could not match the human vessel's speed. "They're sending a general alert to their fleet," reported Lieutenant Hassan. "At least 20 capital ships are changing course to intercept us." Maya smiled grimly. "Then I'd say we got their attention." On the bridge of the Inevitable, Admiral Krell received the report of the human vessel's attack with uncharacteristic alarm. "Show me," he commanded. The holographic display revealed the small human ship now fleeing toward Earth after disabling one of his scout vessels. "It was more advanced than expected," reported Commander Vex. "Its technology should not have been possible given their development level. And yet, here we are," Krell replied coldly. "What damaged our scout ship?" "Unknown energy weapon, Admiral. It temporarily destabilized the scout's shield matrix." Understanding dawned on Krell's face. The humans had somehow developed technology that could exploit the one weakness in Vexeri shield systems, the momentary fluctuation during weapons discharge. It was a vulnerability the Vexeri had deemed insignificant, as no species they had encountered possessed the technology to detect it, let alone exploit it. "Intercept that vessel," he ordered. "I want it destroyed before it reaches Earth." But even as he gave the command, Krell knew it was too late. The small human ship had already transmitted its findings to Earth. For the first time in his long career of conquests, Admiral Krell felt something he had almost forgotten: doubt. In the underwater command center, Admiral Takeda and the assembled military leaders watched in stunned silence as the Artemis's data streamed onto their displays. "They found a weakness," General Williams said, his voice barely containing his excitement. "The alien shields fluctuate during weapons discharge. But the window is milliseconds," General Joe countered. "Even with the pulse, a single ship can't exploit that against their entire fleet." Admiral Takeda studied the tactical simulations running on his personal display. "Not a single ship, no. But what about all of our ships? And our ground-based weapons? And our satellites?" A plan was forming, desperate and dangerous, but with a glimmer of hope. "The Artemis will never make it back to Earth," he said soberly. "They're too far out and too many enemy vessels are in pursuit. But Captain Chen has given us what we need." He turned to the communications officer. "Transmit these frequencies to every weapons platform we have. And get me the quantum physicists from CER and Luna who survived. We need to modify every energy weapon in our arsenal within the next 6 hours." The Artemis raced toward Earth, pursued by 5 Vexeri warships. Despite pushing its engines beyond safety parameters, the gap was closing. "They'll be in weapons range in 3 minutes," reported Raj, his voice steady despite the dire situation. Maya studied the tactical display, noting the positions of the pursuing vessels. A plan formed in her mind, a desperate gambit with little chance of success, but better than facing the enemy weapons with no options. Ensign Rodriguez plot a course directly for the lead pursuit vessel. The young helmsman stared at her in confusion. "Sir, that would put us on a collision course." "Exactly," Maya replied. "We can't outrun them, and we can't outgun them. But we still have one charged pulse, and they don't know we figured out their weakness. Understanding spread across the bridge. It was a suicide mission, but one that might buy Earth precious time. "It has been an honor serving with all of you," Maya said, her voice firm. "Let's show these aliens that humanity doesn't go quietly." The Artemis reversed course, accelerating directly toward the lead Vexari warship, a vessel 10 times its size. The alien craft momentarily slowed, clearly confused by the human ship's apparent suicide run. "Charge the pulse to maximum," Maya ordered. "Divert all power from life support if necessary. We need one perfect shot." As the distance closed rapidly, the Vexari vessel opened fire, its energy beams striking the Artemis's already weakened shields. "Shields failing," reported Raj as the ship shuddered violently around them. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. "Hold course," Maya commanded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the distance counters rapidly decreasing. 5,000 meters, 4,000. The Vexari ship fired again, a sustained barrage that tore through the Artemis' remaining defenses. "Now," Maya shouted, "fire the pulse and all weapons." The Artemis released its final pulse, perfectly timed with the Vexari's weapon discharge. The alien ship's shields flickered and failed just as the human vessel unleashed every remaining weapon in its arsenal, targeting the exact spot where their sensors had detected the Vexari's primary power core. The effect was catastrophic. The Vexari warship's dark matter reactor destabilized, creating a chain reaction that tore the massive vessel apart from within. The explosion engulfed the Artemis, but not before Maya had one final moment to appreciate what they had accomplished. "Transmit our final data," she ordered as warnings blared across the bridge. "Make sure Earth knows how to beat them." Admiral Krell watched in disbelief as one of his premier warships exploded, taking the human vessel with it. "Analysis," he demanded. "The human ship somehow targeted our reactor's containment field at the exact moment our shields fluctuated," reported the science officer, his voice betraying unprecedented concern. They sacrificed themselves to demonstrate the technique." For the first time in his centuries-long career, Krell felt genuine alarm. Never had a supposedly primitive species shown such tactical acumen or willingness to sacrifice. "Move the fleet into attack position," he ordered. "Begin the planetary bombardment immediately. I want their defense capabilities eliminated before they can adapt this technique." But even as he gave the command, hundreds of modified human defense satellites were reorienting themselves above Earth, their weapon systems recalibrated based on the Artemis's data. The battle for Earth began with a simultaneous discharge of every Vexari weapon system, a standard tactic that had worked on 47 previous worlds. But this time, as their weapons fired, every human defense platform fired back at precisely the right moment. Across the Vexari fleet, shields failed for crucial milliseconds. While most human weapons were still too primitive to cause significant damage, hundreds of nuclear missiles, technology the Vexari had dismissed as obsolete, slipped through the momentary gaps, detonating against unprotected hulls. Dozens of alien ships erupted in flames, creating a ring of fire in Earth orbit. The Vexari, accustomed to quick, one-sided victories, found themselves in an actual battle for the first time in generations. On the inevitable, Admiral Krell struggled to comprehend the rapidly deteriorating situation. "Impossible," he muttered as reports of ship losses poured in. "They're using our weapons discharge against us across the entire fleet simultaneously." "Admiral," Commander Vex reported urgently, "multiple human vessels are launching from Earth. They're small, primitive by our standards. But they're targeting our ships at the exact moment we fire." Krell finished, understanding dawning too late. "They're using our own attack sequence against us. What the humans lacked in technology, they made up for in numbers and adaptability. Thousands of fighter jets, aircraft that the Vexari had dismissed as atmospheric toys, had been hastily modified with rudimentary shields and timing systems. They swarmed the alien vessels like insects, firing their primitive missiles precisely when the Vexari shields fluctuated. For 6 hours, the battle raged in Earth orbit. The Vexari still held technological superiority, but their rigid tactics, honed through centuries of easy conquests, proved inadequate against humanity's desperate innovation and willingness to sacrifice. As his fleet crumbled around him, Admiral Krell made the decision that would end his illustrious career. "Order a general retreat," he commanded, his voice hollow with defeat. "All vessels to regroup at Rally Point Omega." Commander Vex stared at him in shock. "Retreat? The Empire has never faced a species like this." Krell interrupted. "We will regroup, analyze what happened here, and return with a strategy that accounts for their unpredictability." As the remnants of the once mighty Vexari fleet limped away from Earth, using their phase shift drives to escape further destruction, Admiral Krell stood alone on his bridge, contemplating the unthinkable, his first defeat in 3 centuries of conquest. 1 month later, the leaders of Earth's nations gathered in the rebuilt United Nations headquarters in New York. For the first time in human history, all political entities had united under a single banner: Earth Defense Coalition. Admiral Takeda addressed the assembly, his voice solemn yet proud. "The Vexari have withdrawn from our solar system, but make no mistake, they will return. Our victory, bought with the sacrifice of the Artemis and countless brave defenders, has given us time, nothing more." He gestured toward the viewport, where dozens of new vessels were under construction in Earth orbit, ships incorporating both human ingenuity and reverse-engineered Vexari technology recovered from destroyed alien craft. Captain Chen and her crew showed us that even the most advanced enemy has weaknesses. More importantly, they reminded us of humanity's greatest strength: our ability to adapt, to think creatively, and to face impossible odds with courage. General Williams stepped forward. "The quantum pulse technology has been standardized across all defense platforms. We've also begun construction of a defensive perimeter at the edge of our solar system, early warning stations that will alert us to any phase shift signatures." "And beyond that?" asked one of the assembly members. Admiral Takeda's expression hardened with determination. "Beyond that, we take the fight to them. The Vexari didn't expect resistance from Earth. Next time, we'll show them that humanity doesn't just defend. We explore, we expand, and when necessary, we fight." As the assembly erupted in applause, a memorial was unveiled in the center of the chamber, a perfect replica of the Artemis, with the names of its crew inscribed in gold. Beneath it, a simple inscription read, "They showed us the way to the stars. We will not forget." In the vast darkness between star systems, Admiral Krell's damaged flagship limped toward Vexari space. For the first time in his long life, he experienced an emotion rare among his kind: respect for an enemy. The humans had done what 47 other species could not. With primitive technology and desperate courage, they had stopped the unstoppable Vexari Empire. Krell knew that the High Council would strip him of rank and privilege for his failure. But before they did, he would make them understand what he had learned. The galaxy had changed. The era of easy conquest was over. And somewhere on a small blue planet, a species of surprising capability was looking toward the stars not with fear, but with determination. The Vexari had awakened a sleeping giant, and Krell wondered if even the might of the Empire would be enough to face what was coming.